See, Andrae, you have a question? Andrae, you're on.
Yes. Yes, I had a question.
Uh-huh.
I know that on the transition diet, uh, it calls that we can eat, some mucus lean foods. But my question is, how long should we be on these type of foods? Because, like for example, I used to try to eat like wheat bread, and at
Yeah.
first it was okay, but when I got off of it, I have a lot of trouble eating it. But
Mm-hmm.
Tony mentioned that to toast it,
Right.
but I think I tried that, and it was real tough for me to even like eat the whole wheat now.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, should we be on these type of mucus forming foods like a length of time, or should we eat it until we can't eat it anymore? Because it's
Yeah.
still, you know, yeah,
Yeah, I
that's my
mean,
question.
yeah. Well, that's definitely where the art of the transition comes in, because what you want to do is try to find foods that, one, satisfy you, because there's no use in walking around being hungry. I've transitioned in such a way where I'm never hungry. Like I don't even have that experience of what people used to call hunger. All I've ate today was apples and a couple grapes. I'm not hungry, but and the hunger really went away when all those acids left my stomach, when I really started doing enemas and stuff, and started fasting a little bit better. But in terms of long-term mucus lean, and I think we just posted a video, me and Tony had this discussion, but the mucus lean items, I would find items that satisfy you, do the least amount of damage. So for instance, for me, I did 100% wheat spaghetti to help me get off of meat. And so I would make these, all this spaghetti, I'd make this big sauce, and I started adding sauteed vegetables to that meal. And before I knew it, in a couple months, I was eating very little spaghetti and mostly the vegetables. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't even really need the spaghetti anymore. I'm really into these steamed vegetables on top of a salad with the sauce. And so that was a way I transitioned from a mucus forming piece to basically a mucusless cooked regimen. The toast, and the other thing about mucus lean is it is going to be different for each person, because some people, if you already come to the Mucusless diet and you just can't handle wheat, so like some people, the new thing, people talk about the gluten intolerance, just like somebody might be lactose intolerance. I was so-called lactose intolerance, although I took those little lactate pills so that I could eat dairy, back before I got into the diet. But if you have an intolerance, then keep that in mind, and you don't have to force yourself to try to eat that thing. You want to find something that you can handle, that makes sense for the transition. And it's always about eating those things with a big salad or with the vegetables. I was developing those good habits. I was able to basically always eat mucus-free, always have a salad whenever I was going to have a mucus lean item. I very rarely, I call those the crackhead days, like if I get in the mode where I go and eat like some corn chips or something, and I don't have a salad with it. That's a moment where I lose control. And that happens, it just does sometimes, depending on where you're at. But what you want to do is, when you do have the control, always combine the mucus lean kind of things with the big mucus of salad and that kind of stuff. In terms of long term, for me, basically what happened was there certain things I just never went back to. So in the early days, I did mess with soy burgers a little bit, some of that vegan stuff and some of those kind of things. And then I got to a point where I got away from it long enough, or I had a good enough fasting period, and I just never went back to it. And then if I did go back, I might eat something like that once every year or once every 2 years. And that's another aspect of the transition that I hear very few people talk about, is that kind of like, you might get to a point where you start out, you might eat nuts once a week. Then you might start out eating nuts and raisins every day. Then you get it to a point where you're eating it once a week. Urge might come up once a month. Then eventually you get to a point where you might only eat nuts once a year. And it kind of sort of just feels like it's part of the transition. You could get to a point where you eat nuts and raisins once every 5 years. And that length and that level of transition is something I never really hear anybody else talking about. Because that's a frame of mind that's very long term, and there's no forcing yourself involved, and there's no guilt trip as to like you go 5 years and all of a sudden for some reason you crave some cashews and raisins and you eat them, and it's like, if you've been transitioning properly, your stomach is going to feel terrible. You're going to feel terrible, not because you feel emotionally hard on yourself, but because physically your body is way more advanced than what you tried to go back to. And that becomes part of classical conditioning, where now your body is forcing you to eat better. So if you stay on the transition, you will get to that point. And the other thing about the long term is basically, if you can get it down to where you can sort of count the mucus items that you eat on your hand, where you have just 5 or 4, you only have several mucus forming MUCUSLEAN items that you go back to, then you can kind of just pick them off, and you can watch them disappear as you no longer crave them. And so, but in terms of long term, I mean, that's what I would say. I mean, there's certain things I say get off as soon as you can. Get off of nut milks, if just that kind of thing. Get off of the soybean burgers, the tofu, the rice, white potatoes. There's sort of a list of things like that I advise people to get off of is sooner than later. Then there's other things that can maybe hang around a little bit longer, and that's what's going to be a little bit different for everybody. And does that answer your question there, Andre?
Yes, that helped me a lot. But one more thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask is that my family think I'm crazy. The question I wanted to ask, because they think I'm a wacko, is like,
that's normal, man.
What's the best way to like cope with family who thinks you're like, out of this world, and like you try to tell them, and you saying, hey, this is what I do, man. I don't have much friends and things like that, but I don't know. That's my question. How do you guys, anybody in the forum, how do you guys deal with that? I guess you got to be like the son. You got to be alone sometimes. But yeah, that's the question I have.
The leadership starts on an island. Does anybody else want to chime in? Because I can talk about that subject all day, but I know there's let Tony. I know he's been through that here recently.
I'll chime in a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way into it, but basically, if you just transition, people will see some changes in you, and they'll want you to talk about it. Now, you're going to be able to tell how far you should take it. Just use your intuition, man. And if somebody asks you something about it, just try to just tell them exactly what they want to know. Don't tell them anything more, because then that's when they start disrespecting you like that. It's like, it's all about learning how to talk about it and letting people ask you questions, but don't push it in their face.
But Tony, something happened to your microphone. There you go.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's my advice, man. Just learn how to talk about it, and that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anybody else want to chime in on that? What have you guys done to kind of confront friends and family members?
Well, I actually got my parents to do basically go vegan, and it started with me plant-based for my health and learning, and like I said, learning every day. But then I got a little more into it, for the animals, and realizing that we're not meant to be eating animal products. They're just, it seems easy for me now, but coming from most of my life eating it,
Right.
I guess I can see how people were programmed to think certain things, and a lot of misinformation out there. But I got my parents; they're vegan now, so they actually listen to me. So they tell me my whole life to eat fruits and vegetables, and I didn't do it. And now I'm telling them to do it.
Right. Yeah.
But other family members, it's been tough. Like they think I'm crazy, or they think, especially when I do like watermelon fast, they're like, "What?" I told my sister I did 11-day on melons only, and she's like, "That's crazy. You're crazy. You must pee a lot." Like, stuff like that. Not,
Yeah.
but it's like Tony said, you got to be able to just talk with them and not really push it on them to make them feel uncomfortable, and just lead by example is the best I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Andrae, got your hand up there.
Oh yeah, that those comments, yeah, they helped out a lot. But sometimes I talk to family, but I tell them like the list of foods that are mucus forming, and they will come back and say, "Well, what is there to eat?" You know, but like Tony said, you just have to you can't be too overwhelming, because I've learned that everybody is in the certain place at a certain time, and it might not be their time yet. So I just take it, I take that step.
Yeah, and I would say I think Ozzy's experience is rare, where you have friends and family that are that open to kind of like oh, okay, I see what you're doing. With me, it's almost like 12 years later. Now people are starting to say, well, I guess maybe he's not that crazy, and they're starting to ask me questions and have a lot more respect for what I'm trying to do and stuff. But I had to definitely in the early days, I don't know, I went through various phases, and I noticed that other people have kind of gone through those phases too. But you go through a phase where you find out this information and you're feeling so good, you're healing things. It's like, wow, this is amazing, and I want to tell the world. And the first people you want to tell is your closest loved ones and friends. Like, check this out. This is some great information. But what you don't realize is you left the cave, as the old Plato concept goes, where you already left that reality behind, and you don't realize how far you went. And you try to come back, and you're bringing this information, and it's the most rational thing in the world to you. You're like, check this out. Look at this. This is transformative. This could change your life and the world and heal you and so on and so forth. And you get met with such opposition, and it hurts you emotionally because you love these people, and you want to help them, and you think that you found something that can really help them, but they hit you with things that sometimes you might not even be ready for, the kind of negative vibration that can come at you. Because with me, I mean, I saw reactions that I had never even seen from family members before that were just sort of like negative. And later on, when I looked back at it, I realized that it really wasn't them, and it was almost just this deep reaction that they had to the information of how profound the Mucusless diet information is. And when you're dealing with people that are socialized to to believe in this medical establishment, and like I say, the doctors are pretty much the new Catholic priest. You know, we're back historically, the priest sort of ran the show, and you didn't ask, you didn't question them. You genuflected, you kissed the ring, and you did what they told you to do. And that's basically the way people treat medical doctors now. It's like you don't question them. They tell you, you have this, then you must have it. And then, well, what you got for me, doc? Here's some poison. Go take this. And not only here's some poison that I was paid to give you. There's a pharmaceutical company that's paying me, giving me an incentive to push this on you. And so as simple as that is to talk about, it crushes people, because people aren't, it's like a lot of people aren't ready to have that discussion, and it can be so frustrating. So what I basically learned to do was, there's strength in numbers, and people tend to respond better to some kind of unified front. It's like I've often said, I like to make the correlation between a gang. A lot of people know the Bloods and the Crips, the famous gangs in America, and a Blood is not going to go over into Crip territory by themselves. Like, hey guys, how you doing? They're going to go over there with their crew, because it's a very adversarial. The U.S. Army isn't going to invade a country with one person. They're going to take an army. And so what I started to do was, okay, let me focus on the mucusless community, and let me see if we can come together. And when that starts to happen and you start to see a real community form, that changes people's opinions and perceptions about what we're doing, because it's more than just one person out here doing it. It's like, wow, and I've seen the family members do that to me, because they see the work I do, and they start seeing my videos and stuff, and they're like, because I don't really share all that stuff with them. They either have to find it on their own, or I don't push it on them. And when they see it, they're usually real impressed, because it's like, wow, there's a whole sort of movement. There's a lot of people that are into that kind of thing. And it's like, well, yeah. And so there's a different level of respect. So it's one of those things that you definitely have to navigate for yourself. And there's sometimes when you're going to want to talk, there's times where I've been in a real revolutionary type of attitude, where I really wanted to talk about this stuff, and I wanted to kind of like, look, killing animals is wrong, that PETA kind of attitude, where I kind of go into that kind of mode. Then there's other times where I've just been very quiet, and I just don't say anything, and I just listen. And I tended to go more in that direction. The longer I'm into the diet, I don't have to say anything. People know, so they sort of sense something is different about me when we're together, and a lot of them like the vibration, and that usually causes them to ask me questions about, like, well, what do you do? Like, they don't even know what I'm into, but they know it's something, and so they want to ask. And most people that practice this diet long enough, that happens, where you just sort of stand kind of above the fray and to the side, and people want to know, like, okay, well, what are you into? And so does that help, Andrae?
Yeah, that helped out a lot. But I was watching a video that you and Tony did the other day, and I think he hit the nail on the head when he said that you want to help your family so much, but it gets to a point where all that you do, you're hurting them, and then they're hurting you. So I mean, that's just it right there. But yeah, you answered the question. Thanks.
Yeah.